Okay. Okay, let me admit the rest. Just give me a second. Okay. I'm going to begin sharing my screen with you once again. Please tell me when you're able to see it. Do you see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
Juvia, choose a victim, please.
Miriam, it's okay.
Okay.
Is Miriam here?
Maybe she isn't. Choose somebody else, please.
Okay, Aaron.
Thank you.
Okay, picture narrating. This activity is based on several sequential pictures. Students are asked to tell the story taking place in the sequential pictures by paying attention to the criteria provided by the teacher as a rubric. Rubrics can include the vocabulary of structures, as simple they need to use while narrating.
Thank you, Aaron. This is a very good activity to include in elementary, in beginner students, because you're providing the vocabulary, you're providing the tense, and it's a very simple activity because it can only regard an action per each image. And it's a good activity to promote speaking in class. Aaron, choose a victim, please.
Efraín.
Efrain, thank you.
Reporting. Before coming to class, students are asked to read a newspaper or magazine, and in class they report to their friends what they find as the most interesting news. Number two, teachers can also ask their students to watch a specific program on a specific channel. Time of the program should be given well in advance. Number three, then students could be asked to report back what they have seen and express their views concerning what was presented in the program or cartoon film.
Thank you, Efrain. Now, this activity is more for pre-intermediate, intermediate, and also advanced students, when you can ask them as homework to view a program, to view the news, and then they're going to report it in class. Also, you can include it as a writing activity. Write what you're going to say, and then say it in front of the class. Thank you. Efrain, choose another victim.
Liliana.
Liliana, thank you.
Picture picture describing. Students describe what it is in the picture. They discuss the picture with their groups. Then a spokesperson for each group describes the picture to the whole class. This activity fosters the creativity and imagination of the learners, as well as their public speaking skills. It could also be used as springboard for a whole class discussions.
Thank you, Liliana. This activity can be used, for instance, when students are very shy and they are afraid to talking in public, then you can assign groups, and then in their own groups, they can tell what they see in the pictures. And then at the end, as a closing section, well, one person of each team is going to describe the elements that their team members saw in the picture. This is very interesting because you can see that for a single picture or a single image, the students or the group see different things according to their own characteristics and their own interests. This is it's a very interesting activity. Also, you can combine it with writing. They can write and then they can present it. Thank you. Can you choose another person, please?
Yes, Rene.
Speeches. Teachers can ask their students to prepare a speech about one of the topics that were discussed in class. They may also ask them to prepare a speech about a special event or occasion. In fact, lots of students enjoy such activities as they allow them a great deal of freedom to express their ideas and show their talents. Of course, delivering the speech should be done in class.
Thank you, Rene. Also, this activity, many teachers use them as an end of term activity. Students prepare for maybe 2 weeks, and then they present at the end of a semester or at the end of the course a speech with the characteristics that the teacher has already provided them. Thank you, Rene. Rene, choose somebody else, please.
Marisa?
Marisa. Okay, now we're going to be reviewing more practical activities. Marisa, please.
Sample speaking activities. Introduce yourself or your best friend. Describe, introduce countries. Locating places. Talking about families. Bringing a clear picture of a person and ask students to describe him. Expressing likes. Describing a house. Using the map to give directions, giving instructions, a food recipe. What a visitor can see in your city. Talking about past actions.
Thank you, Marisa. And these are functions of the language, the purpose for which language is used. Thank you, Marisa. Choose somebody else, please.
Azareli.
Provide maximum opportunity to students to speak the target language by providing a rich environment that contains collaborative work, authentic materials and tasks, and shared knowledge.
Thank you, Sareli. This is very important, guys, because as teachers, we tend to speak a lot, especially in speaking class. And in speaking class, well, we want them or we need them to speak to produce language. That's why it's a very good activity to assign groups. That way they have the opportunity to speak in a safe environment and not many eyes on them. And they have the opportunity to be heard and also listen other models of language different from the teacher. Azareli, choose please another person.
Jose Luis?
Okay, try to involve as many students as possible in every speaking activity. For this aim, practice different ways of student participation.
Thank you. Somebody else, Jose Luis?
Oh, sorry, Aaron?
Aaron,
You're next.
reduce teacher speaking time in class while increasing student speaking time. Step back and observe students.
Thank you, Aaron. Choose a victim.
René,
Choose somebody else, please.
He said
René,
René.
Rene, okay?
Indicate positive signs when commenting on students' response.
Thank you, Rene. This is very important to increase students' confidence. Always praise the positive signs and any recommendation that you want to do them in private or as a whole group. Rene, choose somebody else, please.
Azarelli,
Okay. More. Ask eliciting questions such as what do you mean? How do you reach the conclusion? In order to prompt students to speak more.
Thank you, Sareli. We all have had that student that answers with only one word. So in order to make them speak more, we can ask follow-up questions. What do you mean? Can you give me an example? What are you trying to say? Give me well, another example. There are many following up questions that we can ask to the student in order to get them to speak more. Azareli, somebody else, please.
Renee, I'm just kidding. Efrain?
Thank you.
Provide writing feedback like your presentation was really great. It was a good job. I really appreciate your efforts in preparing the material and efficient use of your voice.
Thank you, Efrain. Also very important to increase their confidence. Provide a written feedback with positive signs in order to increase their confidence and increase their motivation to produce language. Efrain, somebody else, please.
Ignacio.
Okay. Do not correct students' pronunciation. Do not correct student pronunciation mistakes very often while they are speaking. Correction should not distract students from expressing themselves.
Thank you, Ignacio. Also, a very important point, guys. When they are speaking or producing language, the focus is not mainly form. The focus is fluency. We can be taking notes as they are speaking, and at the end, in a private manner or as a whole group, address the mistakes or the areas where they need to work or improve. Thank you, Ignacio. Choose another person, please.
Josué. Oh, I said Josué.
Josue.
Yes.
Okay. Circulate around classroom to ensure that students are on the right track and see whether they need to help while they work in group affairs. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Josue. In this way, you can take notice of any problem or some mistakes or provide any assistance that is needed. Josue, choose somebody else, please.
Gabriela.
Okay, provide the vocabulary beforehand that students need in speaking activities.
Thank you, Gabby. This is especially important in beginner and pre-intermediate, because in intermediate or advanced levels, well, they can come up with their own vocabulary according to their needs and interests. Gabby, choose another person, please.
Georgina.
Diagnose problems faced by students who have difficulty in expressing themselves in the target language and provide more opportunities to practice spoken language.
Thank you. Thank you, Georgina. This is why it's very important to be taking notes as students are producing language. And at the end, you can address them in private, or if you identify there is a problem shared by the whole group or by most of the group, then you can design a lesson to address that particular aspect. Thank you, Georgina. Choose somebody else, please.
Lluvia.
Sorry. Conclusion. Pay great attention to teaching speaking. Make students more active in the learning process and reduce their anxiety. Make their learning more meaningful and fun for them.
Thank you, Yuvia.
You're
So
welcome.
far, guys, so far, what are your opinions on this? Do you agree? Something that you want to add? Anyone?
I think, teacher, that we will face a challenge when we return to class regarding speech activities. Well, in my school, for example, since we are working at a distance, I have not heard any of my students speak English. We know this is a temporary situation, but still, a year. Well, I don't know if my partners were different than me, but I just sent activities once a week, and they returned to me just writing activities, not videos, nor audios, nor anything. I don't have any contact with my students because the situation in the place when I work, where I work, well, it's not too beneficial the situation for them. So I don't know the voices of my students in the first grade because, well, I don't know in person. So I think it's gonna be a challenge when we return the next year, maybe. I don't know.
Yes, Jose Luis, this is a very important aspect that you're bringing up because I want to tell you that for next week, you're going to be designing a teaching a speaking activity. So you have to be thinking how you're going to be implementing that activity. My suggestion is you can.
It's impossible, teacher. It's impossible in my situation. UPES need to think this situation and change the activities and not to ask as that to us to work in those activities because the situation is not, it's not easy for all the teachers. In my situation, it's impossible. My student doesn't have a WhatsApp, for example, one or two, but they don't know saldo all the time. It's very, very difficult. Just send the activities, I print it, some person just pick up and share with the students, but it's very, very difficult. I could use maybe a daughter of my daughter because she's on a secondary school in Mochis. She can help me with the activity maybe, but no with my students.
Yes, it's very important that when we say no or I can do it, our brain acts accordingly. So it's very important to ask ourselves, how can I do it? I know that it's very difficult, but maybe you can for instance work with 2 or 3 students, and with those you can do the activity. With not all of them, maybe with 2 or 3, and you
In the
can.
I was thinking about it also, teacher, but not because the same situation as Jose Luis mentioned. Also, for me, it's difficult because the students in Pitayal sometimes is hard to communicate with all of them. But I think if I ask them to make a video, because I made it in on December with a Christmas video, some of them send me a video, but in this week probably will be difficult because it's the semana de exámenes trimestrales. So we won't send activities, and I don't know if it will be possible for me, but mm, well, I can try with one of or two students
Yes,
to make a video.
remember, you're going to be designing the activity. You can design the content, the vocabulary, the difficulty, and of course, not all of them, but maybe two or three. I think that it's possible.
Well, UPES is not thinking well. I don't agree with you in this case. You don't know my situation. You don't know my context where I work. If you mm, know the situation, you think different. But the parents always are in deny in my school because they don't have. It's a very poor rural context.
Where do
They
you
don't have.
work?
Nobody have internet in their house. The Telcel signal is very poor. Just in a few places, they struggle a lot with the signal of communication of the internet. They don't, and in their house they don't have. In that place don't have Megacable, doesn't exist. Telmec doesn't exist anything. So we print the activities. We given to them printed. Just two or three have communication, but not day by day. A week, maybe I lost them for a week or two at the end, have a communication, but not day by day.
Well, if you want, we can talk about your particular situation at the end, Jose Luis, so we can see how can we make it work. What do you think?
Okay, okay, dokie.
Okay. So somebody else about the content that we been reviewing. Did you find any interesting activities? Have you used some of them? Yes, no.
I wanted to ask you something. For example, at this time when we are working online, for example, I work every day online with my students. Which activity it's better to choose to make my students talk more than me?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, like which activity can I choose to to ask them to speak more in the
Uh,
classes?
where do you work? Is it public? Is private?
It's private school. I work in secondary.
Secondary level? Okay. What content are you working right now?
Like, well, right now in this week we are going to have exams, but as Gabby, I asked them to make a video of any topic that they want, and for some of them it's very hard. They don't want to do it because they are afraid to talk in public. So I don't know how can like motivate them to so they can do the video.
Okay. Um, uh, what content did you watch last week, or what was the content of the unit?
Well, I'm following a book that is called Awesome. For example, in first grade, let me check the book. Wait. In first grade, I'm talking about the routines, and they are using at, it, and on.
You're using what, sorry?
They are talking about the daily routines,
Uh-huh.
and they are using the expressions of time, in, on, and at.
Okay. Okay. For instance, if I were you, I would choose three students that are the most advanced, And I will ask them to provide a video, a very short video about maybe 1 minute tops, describing 3 or 4 daily routines, and ask them to use at, for instance, I brush my teeth at 9 a.m., for instance. I eat my breakfast on the table. Or I always put the trash in the wastebasket. It's an example. You can use the vocabulary that you've been using with daily routines. That could be
Okay.
as simple as that. You can do it as simple or as complex as you want.
We have a homework.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sorry?
Teacher, we have homework about the video or what? What are you talking?
No, I'm talking about next week, for instance. For this week, you designed a rubric, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Then now you're going to put that rubric to work with speaking activities with your students. That's what we're talking about.
Okay.
Then, for instance, you can use 2 or the 3 more advanced students, or 2 or the 3 students that have better connecting options, and you can work with that. It could be a very short video just to assess something. And so I'm saying activity can be as simple or as complex as you make it. You're going to
Teacher, we need to send you the videos of our students.
No, you just need to assess the activity. Let me check about that, because to be honest, I'm not sure. But let me check the activity.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, but I don't recall that you have to send the videos. I don't remember.
I have a video with my students a little bit before that they quarantined us. And
you can use that.
It was a speaking activity about food. I don't know if I can use it. I can send you the link. It's in YouTube, because I did it for another of the practices from UPES.
Okay. You can use that.
I also have Christmas videos, but I can ask. Well, if it's possible for me, I can ask them to make a new video about planning a trip, because it's the topic of my rubric.
Yes. Oh, guys, you know what? This just came to me. Why you're going to be working in teams in the next week? Why don't you work as a team, for instance, as if your team members are your students, and you assess each other? What do you think? I'm going to say it in Spanish so you can understand me better.
Okay.
¿Por qué no, en lugar de que hacerlo con tus alumnos, la semana que entra ustedes van a trabajar en equipos? Entonces, que sus estudiantes sean sus miembros del equipo, y ya ustedes diseñan sus clases y aplican su rúbrica. Me imagino que entre ustedes sí podrán realizarlo. ¿Cómo la ven?
Podemos suponer que, por ejemplo, en mi caso, mis estudiantes en mi equipo van a ser de secundaria, y ellos les voy a proveer la actividad y ellos hacen el video. Ok.
Exactamente. ¿Cómo la ven?
Just like when we do the micro teaching.
Así lo hacíamos en clases.
Exactly. As a micro teaching, yes.
Y así ya no hay problema como el de José Luis, pues.
Ajá. What do you
Teacher,
think?
you will make the teams, or we are
Yes,
going
I'm going to be sharing in a moment the teams with you.
It's okay.
Está mejor porque no estoy dando clase ahorita.
Okay. What do you think? Is it better?
Por mí está perfecto. No sé
It's
qué
better.
piensan.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay.
My rubric is not specific of a topic. It's very general. Since I have preschool.
Even better?
I want to be a preschooler.
Me too.
Okay, guys, let's continue. Who was the last person who read?
Me.
Lluvia, choose a victim, please.
Is Lily here? Liliana?
Liliana?
Yes? No?
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Rubrics. The word rubrics came from Latin word read. In education technology, rubrics means a guide listing specific criteria for grading or scoring academic papers, projects, or tests. Definition: a scoring tool that lays out the specific expectation for an assessment task. A set of clear explanation of criteria used to help teachers and students focus on what is evaluated in a subject, topic, or activity.
Thank you, Liliana. So this is a definition for rubrics. Choose somebody else, please.
Gaby.
Thank you.
What are rubrics? A standardized scoring guide. Identifies important criteria and levels of success for each criterion. A table that identifies and describes various levels of students' performance for each of a set of criteria. A method of rating students' work in a more objective manner. A kind of scorecard that breaks down a written or demonstrated assignment into manageable, thank you, observable pieces.
Thank you, Gabby. So this is what rubrics are. Choose a victim, please.
Efraín.
Why we use rubrics? Enhance students' learning experience by involving them in the process of developing the rubrics. Provide examples of successful students' work from previous classes and or analogous classes. Develop and use rubrics from each assignment, regardless of paper representation, etc. Return rubric to student when handing back assignments. Use a rubric to award a final grade for the assignment and include any additional comments that do not fit within the rubric criteria below the rubric if space allows.
Thank you. Thank you, Efrain. I want to ask you a question. Have you personally, have you been evaluated or assessed with a rubric?
Yes.
Where?
In UPES, but
what else?
I'm not really sure, but when I was working, at Prony, by a supervisor, as Miriam said.
Exactly, yes. Have you taken the TOEFL test or an IELTS test?
TOEFL and TKT.
And also TKT, Yes, in those cases, we are evaluated with rubrics. Choose another person, please. Choose somebody else.
I choose Aaron.
Aaron.
This one, advantages of scoring rubrics.
Yes, please.
Okay. Good for measuring higher order skills or evaluating complex tasks. Summaries of results can reveal patterns of student strengths and areas of concern. Can generate great discussions of students' learning among faculty, especially regarding expectations. Rating is more objective, unbiased, and consistent.
Thank you, Aaron. This is very important, guys, because most of the time, especially with tasks that involve the students to write or to speak, and we tend to evaluate them using a very subjective grading process. And the result is that it isn't fair for everyone. First of all, you need to provide the students with a rubric that you're going to use. That's how they're going to know what aspects of the activity are going to be taken into consideration, and also the points for each activity. And the grading has to be objective and without any room for speculation or for wrongdoing. This is the advantage of a scoring rubric, especially with more complex assignments, especially when students are asked to produce language in written or spoken form. Aaron, choose somebody else, please.
I said Ignacio.
Ignacio.
Okay. Characteristics of good rubrics. Well-defined, content-specific, finite and comprehensible or comprehensive, ordered, related to common goals or themes.
Thank you. Thank you, Ignacio. Yes, it has to be well defined. And as I say, previous to the activity that the students are going to carry out. The content has to be very specific. I'm going to assess this in this form. It has to be finite. What does it mean? That it has to be very specific and to the point, and has to cover one aspect at a time. Only one aspect, and comprehensive. By assessing one aspect, you're going to be order them from the level of importance. And it has to be related to common goals, to the learning outcomes, the aprendizajes esperados that you're working with, and also with the competencies, the competencies that you're trying to develop in your students. Ignacio, choose somebody else, please.
Liliana.
Liliana.
Okay. Sorry, okay. Holistic rubrics, single criteria rubrics, one-dimensional, used to assess participants' overall achievement on an activity or item based on predefined achievement levels. Okay, thank you. Performance description are written in paragraph and usually in full sentences. I can see the letter.
Don't worry, Liliana. So, you have taken the TKT test, right? Some of you.
Yes.
Okay, and what results do they provide to you? How are you assessed? Is it a grade? Is it a letter?
I don't have the results.
I think it's a level, but we don't have the results.
Okay.
We just took it like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, sorry. Well, you're going
They
to
give you like a format where it says that the level that you have.
exactly. You're going to be the results are going to be presented to you in bands: band 1, band 2, band 3, or band 4. And for each band, you're going to be given the criterion and the specific of what you can do according to the nature of the module. For instance, in TKT, each module has different content. And in relation to that, band 4 reveals that you have a mastery in that type of content. Band 3, well, you're very good. And band 2 and band 1 are considered as that you need to improve on those contents or abilities.